Good evening to you all. This is Flatout Racing Network's coverage here this evening of the 7th race of the season for the Adrenaline iRacing Series. We are here in the Irish Hills of Brooklyn, Michigan for the 2-mile speedway of Michigan International Speedway. I am Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, one thing that we definitely know about Michigan in the past, this track is very much like a super speedway in the way the draft works. We've ended up having a number of different drivers go to victory lane in just the first 6 races this season. Do we see a new driver hop up into victory lane and potentially lock themselves up a playoff spot as well?
Well, I know for the fans, they're hoping to see Braxton DeWeese get his win this season, but honestly, it's looking pretty difficult at times. Braxton DeWeese getting the pull here, but I've got my eyes out for those Sky Motorsports machines of Shane Terrian as well as Bronson Stafford. They've been quick. Both those drivers have gotten wins so far this season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them up front in the top 5 most of this race.
Take a look here at our starting lineup for today's race. 25 drivers are scheduled to roll off the grid here in this one. And right now, I'm looking here through at least the top two rows. We could actually go back, first through fourth. They have not gone to victory lane yet this season. The thing is, though, when it comes to Michigan, especially what we saw in practice, track position just doesn't seem to really be a key factor here at this track.
Now, the key thing that we're looking out for is how drivers are able to protect their tires, first and foremost. And second, it's how to utilize the draft and the momentum that you're going to build up on these straightaways. Entering these corners, it's about how softly you can enter and not be pounding on your tires and ruining your front rights. But we're going to have to wait and see how these drivers do so and faring at saving their tires. Now, in Adrenaline, there's 2 stages. The first one will end on lap 36, and then we'll be racing to the end. But at lap 36, things are going to be interesting for this first stage because that's right at the marker that these drivers can go the length for fuel and for tires. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone decides to come and short pit, or if anyone's just going to be trying to stay out there the longest that they can.
And it's 120 laps total, so we would probably get back green somewhere around lap 40 after that first stage is over, which means with 80 laps to go, these drivers are guaranteed they're going to have to be to pit lane again at least one more time, maybe twice, because of the fact that if 36 is the mark that they can make it to, like right around the mark, they'd find themselves, after making one pit stop in that final stage, about 4 to 5 laps short of making it to the finish. So depending on what the racing's like today, we could be in for a fuel strategy race in Michigan.
Yeah, and also matters on how many cautions we have here today. Michigan, like you said, it's kind of like a super speedway, so we're going to be seeing a lot of pack racing. One simple mistake could be taking out multiple drivers, so everyone's got to keep their head on a swivel and also stay as consistent as possible.
If practice was any indication, folks, we saw them on a couple of occasions through the corner 4 wide. So we may see that in this race here today. The question is, will it be happening near the end of the stage? Will it be happening near the end of the race? Or could it be as early as the very first lap? We're moments away from finding out as the field traverses behind the pace car out of turn 4, and the flagman is ready to wave the green flag over the hood of Braxton DeWeese.
Braxton DeWeese in the 27 machine waiting to get to the restart zone, and the green flag's up in the air, and away he goes, taking off like a rocket ship, and the car that's decided to drop back is going to be Shane Terrian.
Now, let's not forget that with us saying that this is a track like a super speedway, the draft can be very important. If you're Braxton DeWeese, did you get out ahead a little too far? We'll see if guys like Sartaj Mann, Spencer Hardison, and Tyler Tomasi, if they're going to be able to draft up to him on the back straightaway.
Honestly, it looks like it might be too far, but at the same time, might be far enough. As the draft is coming in, here comes the rest of the field coming at Braxton DeWeese into turn number 3.
Got a car looking low on the back straightaway. That was Bronson Stafford looking to the inside of Tanner Johnson for 5th. Battle is up here for 2nd. Spencer Hardison with a big run tries to clear Sartaj Mann, off of turn 4.
Man right now doing a great job, and honestly Braxton's got to race as defensive as possible. Oh no!
Oh wow, what
Stafford making a little bit of contact there, and got a car going to be going drifting on back. That was, I believe, That was Tanner Johnson in the 23 machine that got it a little sideways there, saved it, just dropped all the way back to 20th position and even further back.
It was hard to tell what exactly happened. It looked almost like maybe one car came up, that being Bronson Stafford. One car came down in the 23 of Tanner Johnson. The two made a little bit of contact, but that was an amazing save there, especially going into the corner by the 23, as we see here last week's winner, Nick Massey, in that number 4 machine falling to the rear of the field.
Yeah, Nick Massey feeling like he needs to be back there, and honestly, it's kind of a strategy that I've been seeing. You've got the 4, the 38, and the 54 of Tom Bourne, Nick Massey, and Shane Tarian all lingering back on the tail end of this lead pack, just waiting to see what's going to happen. And then, it's kind of like the strategy for a Super Speedway race, where you wait back, wait to see who's going to be causing any type of caution up front, or they also could be doing the strategy of saving their fuel for the end of this first stage of this race.
A word you're going to be hearing us possibly overuse here tonight is momentum. This is definitely a momentum type track, like any super speedway is. That's why we're seeing them double wide and 3 wide up at the front of the field, because they get such a big run, but they can't lift. They've got to take that momentum somewhere, because if they lift, that can translate into loss of momentum and also translate into 2, 3, 4 spots lost to drivers that keep their foot in the throttle.
I mean, you got to look at this 27 up front. Braxton DeWeese has just been looking dominant, holding off everyone, and no one's been able to really make a move as they're 3 wide back there for 4th.
That's Trenton Jump on the bottom. I believe that's Jacob Grant in the middle, and Tyler Tomasi up on the top side of that 3 wide formation as they cross the line. I think the middle line with Spencer Hardison was actually the one to get it at the stripe that time by. A couple of cars back there actually went a little bit wide there in turn 1. One of them might have been the 53 of Eric Stamp. I think the other one might have been Bronson Stafford. We're going to have to keep an eye on that, because those cars looked awfully loose entering on the top line into turn 1.
Yeah, back there, I think the furthest car I saw on the high line was the 34 of Robert F. Kenny, and Kenny just looked like he was drifting higher than everyone else. Could have been just trying to give space, but at the same time might be losing a little bit of the tires already, as we're only coming to lap number 6.
3 wide for a moment back here with Jacob Hoppy, Logan Brakey, Tyler Stooksbury. Interesting to see the 29 of Brakey and the 19 of Stooksbury running in close proximity to each other, because coming into this race, those are the two that are battling for the final spot in the playoffs. Brakey 4 points above the cut line, Stooksbury 4 points below the cut line, and both of them right close to each other here in the beginning stages of Michigan.
And right now, Caleb Smith deciding I want to take the lead as the 25 ducks it down low, getting by Braxton DeWeese.
Now, the thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on as well, because you and I broadcasted a race here at Michigan just a couple of days ago, and something that we saw was tire wear as well. We know these drivers can possibly go that 36 laps up to the end of this first stage, but what are their tires going to look like at the end of the stage is the question as well.
Yeah, these tires are going to be ruthless until, they're going to be pretty fresh until about lap 15 or so. Then you're going to be seeing a lot of drivers really stepping out and their rear ends wanting to snap on these drivers side by side for the lead. But these drivers are going to really have a handful once we get into 15 laps to go, as Smith and DeWeese really getting close on these entry into 4, almost making a little bit of contact there.
Yeah, that's actually slowing them up, being side by side. That's bringing Sartaj Mann and Tyler Tomasi into this group, as it looks like Mann is going to push DeWeese on the outside line into turn 1 and clear him back to the lead.
Still pack action. Everyone's still hooked up and staying with one another for these first 8 laps. It's been looking good. Now the marker that they're looking for, the end of stage 1, will be around lap 36. And there's going to be some drivers that decide, hey, I'm going to short pit to make sure I can make it all the way to the end. There's other drivers that decide, hey, I'm going to drop back and then finally make my way forward after stage 1. I think that's what we were seeing with some of the drivers that dropped all the way to the back early.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because you look at some of these guys that have fallen to the back. You mentioned Shane Tyrion was dropping back there early. Nick Massey's back here. Tom Bourne as well. 24 cars are in this race. All 24 separated by only 3 seconds. So everyone is still up here in the lead pack and up in the draft.
And everyone's still close to one another, side-by-side action for 3rd place at the moment. As I say that, it dwindles away, as it looks like Trenton Jump now trying to get into the inside, rubbing a little bit there on Tyler Tomasi.
Caleb Smith tried to drive it in deep into turn 3, and the longer the run goes on, we know that Michigan is definitely a high line track. You get the better momentum off the corner running that outside line, so as these tires continue to wear away, you're not going to be able to make up as much forward progress using that inside line as you would at the initial start of the race when those tires were fresh.
Yeah, I mean, the factors that we always bring in with tires is how much speed you're carrying into these corners and how aggressive you're turning. That's going to wear down your tires. So cars that try to hold on the inside line, that's going to wear your tires out even more than everyone else. But also another factor is the track temp. Right now, the track temp is around 108 degrees for these drivers, and that is a very hot, slick track for all these machines out there that's going to wear the tires down even faster than they would have been before.
Could explain maybe why we saw a couple of drivers on that outside line get loose going into the corner when it looked like, for the most part, everybody was doing fairly well in going into turn one.
And now it's that challenge for third and fourth. We're seeing Jump as well as Grant side by side at the moment, and everyone else pretty much trying to get single filed up or just staying too wide, not that 3 wide action we were seeing before, just because of the tire wear and everyone acknowledging, hey, our tires are not going to last this long. We got to take it easy from here on out.
Jacob Grant trying to see if he can get himself up into that outside line, as right now he's got Trenton Jump to his outside, Bronson Stafford there, and then he's going to also have Spencer Hardison and Tyler Tomasi. So he's trying to find just a little bit of real estate to get up into that outside line. I'm actually noticing a couple of these guys towards the rear of the field, like Tom Bourne. Very interesting that he is back there because of where he is in the point standings. He is currently 14th in the points, second driver out of the playoffs grid right now, 10 points out. With what you mentioned with the 36 laps, let's remember what's at the end of this stage, and that is stage points. So a lot of these guys, they're just below the cutoff line. This isn't bad strategy. Yeah, they're giving up track position right now, but if it translates into 5, 6, 7 stage points at the end of this thing, that puts them right back up into the hunt to move into the playoffs when we get done with Michigan.
It really does. Looks like our front 8 single filed up. The next time you'll start to see drivers side by side is when you drop back to outside the top 10. Well, you'll see some machines really trying to push each other forward, as it looks like almost 2, 3 wide action here around where Matt Dyer's running. That 88 machine, he's slowly starting to work his way forward. Started back in 18th, now up to 12th.
Following in the tire tracks of Eric Stamp, who now switches from the high line to the low line, now back up to the high line. 22 of Jacob Hoppy there, the 94 of Gilberto Javier Gomera, and then our Daytona winner, Robert Kenny, right there as well in that number 34 machine, the G Fuel Ford Mustang.
And yeah, all this action up here, and we're going to talk about some of these drivers that have been winning, but I mean, there's this cluster of machines. We always call it the Hornet's Nest. Back here around 14th, and you got the 2 yellow machines of the 19 of Stooksbury and Robert Kenny near one another, and Kenny now is finally starting to get comfortable running that inside line when earlier he was all the way on the high side.
Logan Brakey in the 29 right there comes into this race in the final playoff spot. You got the Napa machine to his outside, the 63 of Alex Walter. And right now, only 4 drivers are locked into the playoffs based off their wins this season. Bronson Stafford, a 2-time winner, Shane Tyrion, Christian Gomez, and Robert Kenny all having 1 win apiece. We mentioned that last week Nick Massey went to victory lane, but that was only in his second start. He's 25th in points, and right now he has to get up at least into the top 20 in the standings for that win to count towards the playoff spot. There's a little contact there between, I think that was Gomera and Tyler Tomasi going into turn 3.
Yeah, these guys are running extremely close to one another, and also we're at that lap 15 to 16 marker where the tires start to fade away, and you might get loose and drift up into someone, or you might slide down because of how loose you get and turning too much. These drivers have to be very concerned right now getting side by side, because you don't know if the car above or below you might start to lose it.
Got some cars making moves up at the front. Caleb Smith had gotten around Braxton DeWeese. DeWeese tried to go to the outside, almost got squeezed into the wall for his troubles. And you got Mann right there as well as this side-by-side battle for the lead goes on. Waiting to see which lane may open up. Who knows, if he gets a big enough run, he may force the issue 3 wide.
And here comes Braxton DeWeese holding right at that quarter panel of the 25. Not able to make the pass just yet, but getting that help from the 49 machine down the straightaway, allowing Braxton DeWeese to get the momentum entering the corner, and almost a little contact, a little loose entry. But Braxton DeWeese able to hold on.
And this brings not only Mann into the picture, but also Trenton Jump, Bronson Stafford, and just latching on these top 5 is the 8 of Spencer Hardison as well.
Artisan, he was running up here earlier on, drifted back just a little bit, but here comes Man on the inside for second place.
And you just saw right there how the car started tightening up on that bottom line, and 25 of Caleb Smith able to get to the throttle a lot sooner through the center of the corner, so he's going to edge ahead with help from Trenton Jump on that outside line. So even though Sartaj Man made that move on the bottom, he may drift all the way back to around the 5th position if he can't slot up in line in front of either the 46 or the 61.
And also you got to watch out for Bronson Stafford. He's been blinking in and out here and there, so the drivers have to be careful not to accidentally blink into another machine, or it will cause an accident between those two machines at some point. But top 5 still running close, and I'm looking at the track at the lap times that have been being put down. Those drivers that dropped back, they are putting down some of the fastest laps right now on track. That's Shane Terrian and also Tom Bourne right there, back in 17th and 19th, that are really making a hard charge up forward, which it makes sense. They're saving their tires for this later run.
Yeah, because they have to, at this point, what they're doing is they're trying to make sure that they have enough fuel to make it to the end of the stage, but you can't hang back there too long, because if there's other drivers up here in the middle of the pack that might be saving as well, you got to make sure that you're up ahead of those drivers to make sure you're going to get the best finish possible if you're able to stretch it to the end, the completion of lap 36. Shane Tyrion there making it 3 wide, getting around a couple of machines. And it's interesting here with the fact that you mentioned this is part of the run where the tires start going away. These drivers have been out there for 20 laps. We're starting to see the handling somewhat go away on some of these machines, but they're still realizing the situation and forcing the issue double and 3 wide in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and most of the drivers that are forcing it 3 wide are like those cars I stated that dropped back, and I'm not surprised. I saw both Shane Terrian, Tom Bourne, and Nick Massey do the same strategy. They're all in the same Discord server, so they're all talking to one another, making these strategies with one another to finally push forward. And here they come, making a hard charge right now in the middle of the field. But up front, our challenge for the lead, it's Caleb Smith, I should say, on the inside, coming after Braxton DeWeese.
It's going to be fun to watch here at the closing stages of this stage here when we get to lap 36, because there's no doubt that the 27 of Braxton DeWeese, the 25 of Caleb Smith, they have not been saving. There's no way they can be saving because they've been taking turns out in front. So they're going to be kind of the measuring stick to see if they can make it the 36 laps to the end of this stage.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I'm slightly nervous about for Braxton is the fuel run we were talking about can go to 36. So they can go that far, but that's if you have a little bit of help from the draft. And Braxton DeWeese has been leading this charge for most of the race, not able to save any fuel. As here comes Trenton Jump for the lead. Hasn't cleared just yet, but now he does.
Boy, he had a great run out of turn 4, and he took that momentum all the way down to the apron on the front straightaway. No way that DeWeese could block that momentum, and Jump might be clear off of 2. Nope, not quite. Here comes the 27 back alongside driver's right, but Trenton Jump jumping up to the front, pun intended, as he kind of came from out of nowhere with that run off of turn 4 on the last lap.
And you can start to tell some drivers that have just lingered behind now finally making a push forward, as Hardingson is also going to be making a push in that 8 machine, and also Bronson Stafford, who's just been lingering around on the back bumper of Braxton DeWeese.
We've got a driver that's, I don't know if he's run to an issue, but he is majorly off the pace as caution is out.
In the back.
And it's for Austin Greatorex.
Oh no, as well as Tanner Johnson involved.
Someone went down and got that inside wall separating the infield grass from pit road, and I think it might have very well been the 13.
Tanner Johnson was the cause of that, hitting the wall down the front stretch and came bouncing down into the 13.
Well, we thought that we might end up seeing drivers have to kind of make some choices here on whether to come to pit road before the competition caution or the stage caution came out, or whether to try and stretch it. This says to me that everybody's going to be coming to pit road here, and it's basically going to be about, a 10-lap shootout for the end of this stage.
Yeah, which this kind of hurts all the drivers that were doing that strategy of waiting to come in later on in this run. So it really changes things up, but everyone is coming into the pits this time when they have the opportunity.
Boy, those are some hard shots there. Greatorex was the one that got the inside wall separating the infield from pit lane, and then Johnson went all the way down, hitting the inside pit wall just near the pit road exit. So both drivers taking some hard shots. The whole front bumper of 13 is gone, and hard impact to the left front on the 23.
Well, Braxton DeWeese now, all he needs to do is really stay comfortable and keep running his line and make sure that when he comes in the pits this time by that he doesn't make any simple mistakes. Stay focused. Don't slide into your pit stall. Don't overshoot it. Just hit your marks, get out there, and he should be able to keep the lead. We did lose one of our competitors, and that's Matthew Rodriguez that is out of this race.
And I didn't even get a chance to be able to shout out his paint scheme, which I got a preview of before it debuted here in Adrenaline, and it's probably one of the favorite schemes I've ever seen on iRacing. The Aflac comparison, but with the Goose game instead of the Aflac Duck, and a really fun scheme. Oh, we had an issue there for our race leader coming in. Braxton DeWeese overshot his stall just a little bit, and that's going to translate more than likely into positions lost.
Also, the 94 of Gilberto, he's overshot his pit stall and decided just to continue going forward, so he did not take a pit stop for the 94.
And DeWeese, even despite that little bit of a problem there, getting into his pit stall, he is going to leave pit road as the leader. However, I'm looking at the amount of time he spent in his pit box. That looks like the 27 might have taken a 2-tire stop while everybody else behind him took 4.
That's exactly what happened there. Braxton DeWeese trying something different. I mean, he made a mistake, so he made an audible there on the spot. It was time just to take 2 tires, get back out there before everyone else, but it was a simple mistake that he had to make that audible as quick as possible.
Right now, Gilberto Javier Gomera is out there on 24-lap old tires. We'll see if he's going to give up the race lead to come to pit road this time. That's going to lose him a lot of track position, but he can then use the second stage of this race to make it up. And looks like he is indicating he's coming to pit road. So Braxton DeWeese, can 2 tires hold off 4 tires here? And what's more than likely going to be about a maybe 10, maybe a little bit less sprint to the end of this stage. I mean, my original guess would be no, but I've seen drivers do amazing things on strategies that I wouldn't necessarily think would work. So we'll have to see if this 27 is capable of holding everybody off with having his 2 left side tires worn 24 laps.
Yeah, I mean, Seth, you and I, we did a broadcast the other day at Michigan, and we saw drivers trying 2 tires and no tires strategies against 4 fresh ones, and it did not go well. So this is going to be a risky and a hard battle for Braxton here, but honestly, this 27 car, he might have something. I mean, he's shown that he's got one of the fastest cars out here, got the pole, hasn't really left that top 5 at all during this race, and he might be able to do it with just 2 tires.
Braxton DeWeese, of course, if he had been able to hit his marks, hit his pit box, get the 4 tires, I mean, he's looking for what would actually be his first playoff point of the season, looking for his first stage win. He is 6th in the standings coming into this one, so looking very good to make it into the playoffs, but right here, he may lose out on getting a playoff point as well with winning this stage. As you mentioned, that prior broadcast that we did not see the 2-tire strategy work out. So the question is going to be, how many spots potentially could he lose before the conclusion of this first stage?
Other drivers that made some big moves during pit road. Robert Kenny moved up to 8th and moving up at least 4 positions there. But the pace car rolls off, and Braxton DeWeese bringing us to the green again.
Going to get a good restart there. Open it up by about a car length and a half by the time they get to the start-finish line. Then behind him, you've got a battle for second between Bronson Stafford and Sartaj Mann. We should mention Bronson Stafford. He is a former stage winner this season. It was at Auto Club where he won the first stage, the sister track to Michigan.
Yeah, Bronson Stafford's got 2 wins this season, looking to try to get his 3rd. And I talked to Bronson before this race, and he felt extremely confident about winning here at Michigan just because of the way he's been running all week, because now you're seeing the strength of 4 tires to 2 as Braxton gets spun by Bronson Stafford. Able to save it, though.
A little bit of net code there with the contact between the 61 and the 27, and that's going to lose Braxton DeWeese a lot of momentum as he's going to drop outside of the top 10. Cars darting left, cars darting right, trying to avoid the lost momentum on the 27.
I was talking about Robert Kenny, and he is charging up to third now, almost up to second. And these drivers really trying to push the most that they can here on this short run that we've got. Like you said, it was a 10-lap shootout that these drivers are dealing with here until the stage is over.
Yeah, this thing is not over by a long shot as Bronson Stafford's about to get reeled in. Robert Kenny, who got a stage win back at Daytona, went on to win the season opener. We're 5 wide behind him on the front straightaway. Alex Walter, Tom Bourne were down on the apron trying to make it work, side by side on the apron. That's only supposed to be one groove, not two.
And honestly, it's just 3 by 3 by 3, and sometimes almost by 4. And Braxton DeWeese is in the middle of that back in 15th, trying to figure out how to keep moving forward. But with him on only car on 2 tires, it's going to be a struggle so far. But our leader right now, that's Robert F. Kenny, who's being challenged by Caleb Smith.
We're watching this battling back here in the middle of the pack. We had a little bit of contact there between Logan Brakey and Tyler Stooksbury moments ago when they were 3 and almost 4 wide. Looks like things are settling out just a little bit back here. But by a little bit, I mean 3 wide instead of 4 wide. So it's not exactly settled down as these drivers, they are fighting and clawing to at least get up there into the top 10 and get themselves some stage points.
No, not by a long shot are we done as the drivers now. First and second, the only ones that are single file. As I say that, here comes Trent Jump now getting under Robert Kenny as Caleb Smith leading the way.
And you can see these drivers, they're not willing to give an inch. The car on the bottom pushes up. The car on the top side tries to pinch that inside car down, trying to lose them momentum. And here comes the 49 of Man. He's going to make it 3 wide. It was for second. It's now for third as Kenny's going to clear for second place.
It's going to be 2 3-wide actions going on. We are racing up here for third and then also back there for about 8th place. So these guys continuing to race hard, and it's kind of getting nerve-wracking to a point where they need to relax and make sure they get to at least the stage that you don't want to wreck out now before the race is even over.
Yeah, we were a little surprised to see a caution come out in the first 36 laps of this race. We're now at the point where we wouldn't be surprised to see a second caution come out before we get to the end of the first stage.
Absolutely not. I mean, for short track racing, we usually use the statement, cautions breed cautions, but these guys right now, with the way they're running, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 wide, you know that they are hunting for every position they can, and they know those bonus points are going to be so important for the playoffs.
That was 4 wide there. Whoa, one car out of shape. That was Stooksbury. You see Logan Brakey go into the apron, taking evasive action. Thought it was going to be a wreck out of turn 2. I almost did as well.
Also, Dylan Browning in the 12 machine, he had to duck low, not feeling that great, as Bronson Stafford is going to be on the apron, drifting on back.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the 61 machine, but he darted his car down to the inside on the back straightaway, dropping to the rear. I'm not sure if that has anything to do maybe with the prior contact between himself and the 27 of Braxton DeWeese or not. Maybe giving himself an EOL here near the end of the closing stages of the first stage of this race. But, hopefully we'll get some confirmation on that as back up at the front. Right now, if we look back here, this is the spot where everyone's battling. The 10th position, that's where you get a stage point. Right now, it is Spencer Hardison holding the spot, having to hold off the 29 of Logan Brakey, the 54 of Tom Bourne, the 88 of Matt Dyer, and others.
Yeah, Tom Bourne, he's one of those drivers that dropped back, so ever since then, it's been, hey, we got to get up front as quick as possible, and other drivers deciding, hey, it's time to drop to the back just in case these guys decide to wreck. It might have been just the fact of how aggressive everyone was running that we saw Bronson Stafford decide to say, hey, I'm going to back out of this and just go to the back of the field and relax until we're done with this stage right now.
Boy, things were stacked up there on that inside line coming off turn 2 is the 19, 29, 54. We're all nose to tail. Back up at the front here, you got Robert Kenny. We already mentioned he won at Daytona, so now he's out there just trying to get stage wins and race wins to pad up his playoff points when the playoff points are reformatted, and try and see if he can be in the number 1 seed. The other guys behind him, though, like Trenton Jump, Caleb Smith, Sartaj Mann, and Jacob Grant, they're all looking to try and get a playoff point here for the first time this season.
Yeah, right now I'm keeping my eye out on that 5 machine of Grant, and he's been looking like he's just waiting for that opportunity to get under someone and start moving forward. As I say that, here comes, I think that was Tyler Tomasi that just shot off like a rocket out of turn number 2.
Yeah, Tomasi I saw outside of the top 10 a couple of laps ago in the middle of a 4 wide situation. He's now up to the 7th position and continuing to make some forward progress, looking at the inside of the 53 of Eric Stamp.
Right now, your top 3 staying in line and single filed out, as once they finish this lap, that will be the stage. So everyone's racing to the line. Wherever you are, that's the bonus points you'll get here in the top 10. Only the top 10 will get bonus points. As right now, Artisan is the only one that's staying in, but he is staying challenged side by side with Tom Bourne, who's 9th place.
You got Robert Kenny and Trenton Jump trying to battle it out for the stage win as, wow, Tomasi drove it deep into the side of Jacob Grant. Watch back there around that white machine of Spencer Hardison. That's for the final stage point. Contact between Kenny and Jump coming to the line, and Kenny by half a car length will get it. Spencer Hardison will hang on and get the final stage point here at Michigan. Behind Tom Bourne, Logan Brakey, Eric Stamp, Tyler Tomasi, Sartaj Mann, Jacob Grant, Caleb Smith, and Trenton Jump. But Robert Kenny, another playoff point for our Daytona winner.
Yeah, another bonus point, and also almost a junked up machine, as that was a very late block on the 46 Trenton Jump, and a wild play is being thrown out there. And drivers right now, I think admins after that caution trying to specify if there were any ill will moves being made. Also talks between Bronson Stafford and Braxton DeWeese to see if there's going to be any penalties given out for that incident.
And, people are probably wondering, well, we're 36 laps into this race, and yes, there's a playoff point on the line, but why run the risk of possibly junking your car? Well, we've already alluded to the fact that Robert Kenny with his Daytona win is locked in. Trenton Jump is 5th in the point standings. He's 44 points ahead of the cut line right now, so both these drivers feeling it is well worth the risk, knowing they're probably going to be competing against each other once the playoffs begin, so they want to be able to get the edge on each other as far as playoff points are concerned.
And all these drivers, I'm surprised to see that Shane Terrian went back with Bronson Stafford, and Braxton DeWeese, he only dropped all the way back to 19th, didn't go a lap down. So we know that 27 machine's quick, but it's going to be a long day. And I feel like almost every single week it is being stated that Braxton DeWeese is going to have a long day, but we know that he can get back up front. Back at Bristol, Seth, I was watching on LSR TV, where we usually watch Adrenaline being streamed at weekly. Braxton DeWeese went almost 3 laps down, came back and finished up in the top 5. So we know the 27 machine can get back up front, even if he has a little stumble like this.
Well, it may be frustrating for him, but it's going to be a lot of fun for us because we know he's got a fast race car. He's proved it all season long. He picked up his 3rd pole of the season here tonight. And with him starting, back as you said, outside of the top 15, it's going to be fun to watch that fast machine cut his way through the field when we eventually get back green.
Everyone's coming into the pits, and it's about don't slide into your spot. Make sure you get those 4 fresh tires, get back out there, and it's going to be a long rest of your race. And for these drivers, they're marking down to split this thing in half, most likely. Well, they'll drive for about 36 laps or more, and then they'll finish this thing off with another 36 to possibly 40 laps.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it is, though, as I stated, right now, when we're going to be going back green, we're going to be going back green somewhere in the range of, I believe, I want to make sure my calculations are correct here. I want to say it's going to be about 78 laps to go. And if you take 36 and 36, put them together, that makes 72. They're 6 laps short. Is it going to be possible for them to save maybe 3 laps on one run before a pit stop and 3 laps on another run, or has somebody else got an entirely different strategy to try and make up those 6 laps that they would be short?
Yeah, I mean, there always is the possibility of someone trying to short pit and turn this into a 2-stop run. But most drivers are probably going to be trying to stay in the draft, if not let off a little bit more and let their car coast and try to save fuel that way. We know that there's going to be drivers deciding, hey, I just got to push my car as hard as I can, get up front, lead as many laps and get that bonus point to help myself points-wise, as we are past the halfway marker in the regular season. So now is the time to get every single bonus point you can to get yourself into a better spot of either pointing in or even racing in to getting into the playoffs.
Add the 46 of Trenton Jump back down on pit lane. I'm not certain if he had an issue on his first time down pit road making a pit stop or not. He was scheduled to restart in the second position behind Robert Kenny, but gives up all that track position coming back down pit lane in that 46 machine.
Looking like he might have been penalized there for possibly speeding off of the pit road for the 46 of Trenton Jump.
So we're going to be going back green after our first stage. 25 drivers were scheduled to take the green. One driver I do not think took the green flag, and that was the 9 of Evan Coleman. Right now we have 21 of our 24 remaining drivers on the lead lap. Austin Greatorex, Tanner Johnson, currently multiple laps down due to the incident we saw them have for our first caution. And Matthew Rodriguez has returned back to the racetrack. Been battling internet issues. He's 15 laps down in the 24th position, but at least I'm able to give that Aflac Goose game machine some TV time.
It's always good to see the Untitled Goose being shown off, and it's great to see that car. And it's such a fun scheme to look at. I know they put a lot of work into making that scheme the way they wanted it to, but pace car pulling off. Robert Kenny going to be leading the way in that 34 machine, and the green flag back out in the air.
Yeah, they went back green about a lap or two quicker than I calculated. 80 laps to go, and they can make it maybe about 72 to 73 laps on fuel if they come to pit road one time here in this final stage. So it's going to be an interesting fuel strategy race. And I love how we're kind of, making calculations and making speculations that this thing's going to go green to the end. With the racing that we saw at the end of the first stage, there's no guarantee that we're not going to see another caution here before this race is over.
Yeah, but there's a difference between coming to the end of a stage and going in and trying to survive until you get to the end of the race. It's a much longer stint. You don't need to be as aggressive. But as I say that, you got Tomasi as well as Stamp almost making contact in the middle of turn 3 and 4.
Yes, they did. As Stamp's car pushed up off the corner, here comes Logan Brakey. He's going to look to the inside of the 53 now. That's going to be for the 5th position. Up front, though, Jacob Grant to the bottom on Robert Kenny, trying to see if he can take advantage of those fresh tires and take the lead away, but you just see the loss of momentum on that inside line as it's going to be Kenny to the lead, Smith the second, and Tyler Tomasi follows into third. Something, I don't know if it was just a momentum loss, but it almost looked like something was wrong with the 5 machine, especially with the looseness he had off of turn 2.
It's just because he was driving so low.
Oh no, he's going to pit road. Something's wrong.
Oh no. I think I might have heard over the radio, might have had a drive-through penalty that he needs to serve in that 5 machine.
So Jacob Grant, who came into this race 16 points behind the cut line, was having a great run here today. 16th in the overall standings. He may lose a lap here, at least being on pit road. If he doesn't lose a lap while on pit road, with the fact that we mentioned this track's kind of like a super speedway, this pack of race cars is going to reel him in very quickly.
Yeah, with no help, Grant is kind of stuck in a hard place, hoping for a caution to possibly bring him back into the lead lap. I'm going to be biased here, but here comes that 88 machine of Matt Dyer. That's my brother. I'm hoping that he has a good run here today. He's had a ton of bad luck all season long with internet issues, as well as a lot of just being caught up in random accidents. This 88 machine looking to have a great bounce back race here at Michigan.
Yeah, the drivers right now coming into this race that could lock themselves up playoff spots if they were to win include your brother Matt, Derek Smith, Tyler Tomasi, Dylan Browning, Jacob Grant, Tanner Johnson, Tom Bourne, and Tyler Stooksbury. Those are drivers that are right now 13th and to 20th in the point standings, and as long as you're up inside the top 20 in points and go to victory lane, you're locked into the playoffs. As that was a really interesting slide move there by Jacob Hoppy in the 22, and I'm a little worried seeing him make some moves like that because on the 2 green flag runs we had back in the first stage, that was the car that I saw fade towards the back the quickest, having used up his tires so quickly early on.
Yeah, you just got to be nervous right here with everyone getting clustered up. But our 2 front runners of Caleb Smith as well as Tyler Tomasi feeling pretty comfortable as they just continue to just give back and forth on the lead, not really being too aggressive towards one another. It's when you go back to second where you're seeing back to third where Logan Brakey and Hoppy, where you see them staying side by side but gaining on these two leaders right now.
Appreciate everybody following the race here today, our coverage at Michigan for the Adrenaline iRacing League. And we can see we've got a lot of Braxton DeWeese fans in the chat. And if you're wondering about his forward progress after he ended up falling to the rear of the field on a 2-tire strategy near the end of the first stage. He's been able to work his way up into the top 15, right now battling for the 13th spot with a 63 of Alex Walters. So slowly but steadily working his white and green Toyota Camry back up to the front of the field.
Yeah, Deweese just has a nose full of cars that are staying side by side, so it's going to be difficult for the 27 to push anywhere further, as right now they're actually 3 wide in front of him.
Yeah, 3 wide in front of him, and now they're going to be 3 wide right around in front of the 3 wide formation in front of Deweese, as that was Matt Dyer, Eric Stamp, and I believe Robert Kenny in that. Kenny is starting to drop to the rear of the field after leading us to green at the beginning of the second stage.
You said you were nervous about the 22 machine. He was almost up there leading this race right now, underneath for second, underneath Tyler Tomasi.
You know, we've seen a lot of leagues where it's open setup. You mentioned coming into this race, it's a fixed setup for these drivers. So how is it possible for a driver to be able to take a setup that is exactly the same as the driver he's racing, but somehow translate it into a long run setup as opposed to the other driver that makes it a short run type setup?
Yeah, it's all about how you save your tires. So that means how well you're entering the corners or exiting off the corners, how quick you want to get back onto the gas. And all those different factors can change how much your tire wear changes. For some drivers, they're cranking it and trying to hold down at that yellow line every single lap. And that's going to wear your tires out way more than the drivers are staying a groove or 2 grooves above there.
Right here, the 29 of Logan Brakey has worked his way up to 3rd. The driver that he's racing for that final playoff position, though, he's not been able to shake him. The 2 of them were in close proximity back in the first stage. They're in close proximity here at the beginning of the second stage. That yellow 19 of Tyler Stooksbury right there in the 5th position. So those 2 guys that came in 12th and 13th in the overall point standings right now, both up inside of the top 5.
Yeah, also, when we were giving our update on Braxton Deweese, he's now up to 10th place. He got back and passed all of those drivers, and right now is running behind the 94 and also Bronson Stafford in the 61, as those drivers are trying to make their push forward after lingering in the back for a while.
Yeah, that stage caution was a big break for one driver in particular, and that is Brockton Packard in the 24. He had drifted all the way back outside of the lead pack and had actually lost the draft, was running about 12 seconds behind the leaders coming to that stage caution. Now back up in this lead pack, currently in the 16th position. So probably one of the drivers very glad to have seen that stage caution come out when it did.
And also, car, like we stated, Robert Kenny, he has drifted all the way back to 12th. It's crazy to see this 34 machine, who was doing so well at the end of that stage, looking like he's only got a short run machine here.
And it's interesting that a lot of our drivers that have had victories this season continue to run towards the rear of the field. Shane Tyrion, I don't think we've had him up inside the top 15 yet today, as he's currently back in 17th, and last week's winner, Nick Massey, still riding back here in the 19th position as well. We talked about before in the first stage about these drivers riding at the back, trying to save fuel to make it to the conclusion of the stage caution back on lap 36. We just talked about before going green here to start the second stage, the fact these drivers are going to be anywhere from 5 to 6 laps short on fuel. Are they now back there saving fuel for that potential scenario?
Most likely that's what they're trying to do. I mean, if you look at where cars started in this grid and where they are now, our biggest mover right now would be the 22 machine, who started back in 21st position up to 3rd now and trying to battle for 2nd place. But a lot of the cars in our top 5, only one qualified in the top 5, and that's Tyler Tomasi, who qualified 4th, running 2nd at the moment.
We said at the top of the program at Michigan, it's not really about track position. Drivers, if they've got a fast enough car and they can manipulate the draft, they can work their way from the back to the front. We drop back a little bit further. Another driver that has faded back, well, obviously it was due to coming to pit road due to a speeding penalty. Trenton Jump, he has not really made that much forward progress at the moment. I kind of thought maybe he'd be a driver we'd see fight his way back up through the field due to the fact that he's about 1 to 2 laps better on fuel than everyone ahead of him.
Yeah, that is something to watch out for. I just had a gasp because I just watched Eric Stamp try to pass 4 cars down the straightaway. Not able to do so, losing momentum because he was too far down low. But losing time and falling back is now Eric Stamp, who was now side by side with Matt Dyer. And guess who? Braxton Deweese up to 8th and moving forward.
And now going to edge ahead for 7th on the 94 of Gomera. Next driver on the 27 hit list will be the 61 of Bronson Stafford, as DeWeese can't quite squeeze up in front of the 94 going into turn 1, and now he's going to not have any avenue to get up to the top side. He's now to the inside of Bronson's Toyota Camry.
Contact possibly was made between the 22 and the 25, and they're still racing hard, as now in the middle of the field they are getting all racing.
22 and 25, he said, made contact, and just moments ago the 27 of DeWeese got up and crowded Bronson Stafford. They made a little contact off turn 2.
Maybe a little bit of payback was being served there from when DeWeese was spun out by Bronson Stafford coming to that late stage, on the late caution that we had during stage number 1. So 27 machine now up to 5th, and just continuing to move forward is Braxton DeWeese, who sees that lead right there in front of him.
Logan Brakey out in front showing the way, so that's a very valuable bonus point for him. As we mentioned, he's trying to hang on to that 12th and final spot in the playoffs, and right now, if you're Logan Brakey, you're hoping that either you or one of the other drivers that has won already this season goes to victory lane, because if somebody that's below the playoff cut line goes to victory lane here today, then they are in, and Brakey would be the first man out looking into the playoffs when we get to next week's race at Homestead, Miami.
Yeah, that's the one thing you're always nervous about with these wild card type of racetracks like Michigan, where it's a fuel strategy run, but also it's kind of like pack racing at a super speedway where you're so close to one another. We stated it time and time again, it's all about using the momentum, and a lot of drivers that were running in the back doing a great job moving forward, but Braxton DeWeese now up to 3rd.
He is up to 3rd, getting around Tyler Tomasi for that position, so it took him about 17 laps to work his way from 19th up to 3rd. You don't think that car is fast, the numbers do not lie, and now he's only got 2 more cars before he would be back out in front where he was prior to his, and I'll put this in air quotes, spin, because he had a heck of a save in turn 1 when that car was going around on him.
Yeah, it was a great save when he got bumped around by Bronson Stafford, but able to continue going forward and not making contact with the wall was what saved this 27 machine. But I'm looking back, and Stewksbury in the 19, he has been having a couple of issues, it seems like, when he's just digging it down deep. He's trying to make this inside line work. It's just not working for him as he's losing more positions. But back up front, Braxton DeWeese making a pass for 2nd, inching closer and closer to getting back into the lead.
Braxton DeWeese has been one of the few drivers that I've seen actually be able to make the inside line work. The only question I have is how much tires is he going to have if he is able to work his way to the front? Because remember, back on that first stage, he spent most of it out in front in clean air, being able to choose whichever line he wanted to run. Now he's being forced to run that inside line trying to pass race cars.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've been super nervous about for Braxton, is he has been making such a hard charge and passing everyone pretty aggressively at times, that this 27 machine, once it gets the lead, I don't know if he has anything to hold off some of these drivers that are also making charges forward. I'm looking back, Tom Bourne just got into the top 10 in that 54 machine, and then behind him, at 38 of Shane Terrian is finally making his charge forward, as now he's up to 11th.
Last time we looked at him, Tyrion was running back in 17th, so yes, he is making his forward progress now. Another driver right behind them as well that's making forward progress, the 46 of Trenton Jump, and you've also got the 88 of Matt Dyer back there as well.
Oh no! Around goes, that looks like Alex Walter gets spun around in the inside wall. No caution being thrown as the 63 now out of this thing back there. Looks like he was able to save it off the wall as Braxton DeWeese gets back into the lead.
There's about 12 grooves of runoff on the back straightaway from the white line separating the racetrack from the apron down to the inside wall. So a lot of times if a car does not spin until they get below that white line, iRacing will not throw a caution for it. So a tough break there for the 63 of Alex Walter, who was running at the time up inside of the top 10.
Yeah, Walter did make contact with the inside wall. Heavy contact that's going to give out some engine damage for the 63, so he'll have to come in and repair that. But right now, he's kind of hoping for a caution, and with the way our lead pack has decided to race, so pretty aggressive now on these older tires, I'm getting a little nervous that this caution might be coming out sooner than later.
Absolutely. These drivers are about 15 to 17 laps from having to make what would be the first round of green flag pit stops, and when we get to that point, that's when drivers start to get antsy and try and pick up the positions they possibly can. gain spots on track rather than having to worry about doing it on pit road, as there was nearly contact there between Logan Brakey and Thomas Tomasi for second place.
I stated, watch out for the 38. Shane Terrian is up to 8th place now and is in the middle of this hornet's nest. Is behind Braxton DeWeese and Tomasi. So watch out for that 38 machine, who's on the hunt to get back up front, as he has been just waiting for this time all the way back in practically last place for most of this race.
Both he and Bronson Stafford making some ground on that outside line. You see Logan Brakey down on the inside. He is losing ground as there's nobody down there to offer draft. And the low line, while it may be the shorter way around the racetrack, it is not the faster lane, especially on these older tires.
Gamora and that 94 machine almost got up into the lead, but is going to drip back after losing the momentum off the exit of 2.
And to the front, Braxton DeWeese finally back out in the clean air after he had to work his way in 23 laps from 19th, now finally back out where he was when we started this race.
Yeah, Braxton DeWeese, it's been an up and down battle, but I think honestly, that's for a lot of these machines that are now up here. I mean, you got Bronson Stafford, who drifted back. The 94 has been back there, same as the 38, and they've been just slowly inching their way forward, and they are now here in the thick of things as they're top 10, all on top of each other. Honestly, you could say you're top 15, all in this pack.
Yeah, right now you've got, I believe, 19 cars up in this lead group, as that was a close call for second place. All the way back to Brockton Packard. They're all up in this lead pack. A couple of drivers have lost the draft. Obviously, Alex Walter after that spin in the back straightaway. Jacob Grant having to pit after a restart violation. So those drivers, they're hoping for a caution. And as you said, we're getting closer and closer to the point where we may get one, because it's getting to that point in time where just one little mistake is going to have catastrophic results.
Yeah, cars are still 2-3 wide, and like I said before, it's around lap 15 on their tires when things start to get antsy for these things run these cars. Well, they could honestly spin at any moment, and right now they're on lap 25. These tires are almost smoked, and they are making quite aggressive moves out here with these tires.
Saw Trenton jump, had to come to pit road for a pit road penalty. He's about 1 lap better on tires and fuel than everyone else ahead of him. And look at him trying to push the 25 of Caleb Smith down the front straightaway.
New leader possibly, as you're seeing the 94 machine trying to get up front, almost clear, not just yet, but man, is it close up there battling for the lead.
And we haven't really seen it yet today, but do not be surprised if we get to the end of this race and you see the Dale Jr. patented slide job move. Someone try and drive it down deep and then clear up the track, whoever they are passing. Nobody's made that kind of an aggressive move yet, but you know that that is something these drivers might try if a checkered flag is on the line.
Oh, there's the 38 machine of Shane Terrian, dropping it down low, trying to pass for second. Possibly has the momentum to go for first, and now he's side by side with Braxton DeWeese.
Let's see if he saved his tires enough here against the 27 who was charging through the field. He's going to maybe clear Gamera for second, not quite, and they're going to stay alongside each other down the back straightaway, and they are still double wide, 4 rows deep from about third place on back.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch these drivers right now and the way that they're driving with the way that the tires are. I know that's like the main thing that I always talk about, but that's what Michigan's about. It's about saving your fuel and tires throughout this whole entire run. And here comes Gamera on the inside once again, and it looks like that might be the move to finally put the 94 to the point.
Now, I know that a lot of these drivers that are running back in the maybe 4th on back through the rest of the field, they're having to probably half throttle a little bit going into the corner, making sure that they don't run over the car in front of them. But for the most part, are they holding these cars flat out?
For the first about 5 to 10 laps, yeah, they're holding it out. But after that point, these drivers are letting off. They're trying to save their tires. Some people will actually start letting off sooner than that to save their tires. But most drivers at this point are not full throttle anymore. It's all about how you enter these corners. Letting off into 1 and 2 is same thing for 3 and 4.
The target lap for these drivers to make absolutely certain they could make it on fuel on one stop, they've got to stretch it at least to lap 76. That would be 40 laps into this run since going back green. Or no, I'm sorry. They actually have to stretch it to lap 80 because we went back green on lap 40. They've got to go 40 laps to ensure they can then make the final 40 laps to the checkered flag. If we see anyone come to pit road sooner than that, it's going to be really close as to whether somebody would be able to stretch it the rest of the way on fuel if we do go green to the end.
Yeah, it's kind of a target marker that we're looking for. And we know that the drivers can make it to at least possibly lap 76. But yeah, lap 80 is the marker that these drivers are looking for to split this thing in half and to make it all the way to the end, as it looks like our leaders are coming up to a little bit of lap traffic in front of them.
Yes, I believe that's going to be the 5 of Jacob Grant.
I believe that's actually the 13.
Austin Greatorex, who has the whole front end missing after he nosed it into the inside wall in the front straightaway, and he's going to get out of the way of these leaders off of turn 4. He's actually going to bring the car to pit road.
Yeah, speaking of pit road, 24 machine is pulling it in this lap.
And this is definitely, no, 24 actually,
Oh,
I don't know what happened.
A couple of laps, because he has stated that he is coming in, and I think he's trying to figure out how to get to the inside at this point for the 24 machine of Packard, and I think maybe he might have missed it. Something went wrong for the 24 machine.
Something went desperately wrong, because he has lost the lead pack, and he was slow, relatively slow to the rest of these leaders coming off of turn 4.
And I'm going to keep my eye out on this 24 car that's going to be coming around and getting closer and closer to pit road if he's going to drop it in.
Battle for the lead is back on. Gamora in the 94 on the bottom. DeWeese on the top side in the 27. There's the 13 coming back off of pit lane. Austin Greatorex. He's right now just trying to keep himself ahead of the other lap machine in this race, that being Tanner Johnson. Right now, Greatorex is 6 laps down. Johnson is 12 laps down as Matthew Rodriguez. Looks like he may have officially now retired from the race. We saw him come back out, turn a couple more circuits, but looks like he'll be finishing in the 24th position. I think the 24 is on pit road now.
Yeah, he officially is coming to the pit road with the battle for the lead. Yeah, it's still hot and heavy as DeWeese try to make a crossover move here down the front stretch.
Bronson Stafford, all by himself, is going to come to pit lane here, coming to the completion of lap 71.
So these guys are pitting slightly early. It looks like they might be turning this into a 2-stop race here for this final stint if we stay green. And it's interesting seeing some drivers coming in by themselves, because you know they're going to be losing time compared to the other drivers that are going to be in a pack. So Bronson Stafford trying a risky move by coming in this early.
And with them coming to pit road, if they all start coming to pit road around this time, got another driver indicating he's coming to pit lane. I think it's Logan Braking, the 29. If they all start pitting at this point in time, then they're going to be having, as you said, to maybe pit at least one more time. And what they'd be able to do is kind of split up these final 50 laps. And it'd be, would they go 25-25? Would they maybe go 40 laps and then 10 laps? I mean, it's going to be a lot of options for these drivers. Up at the front, it's still Braxton DeWeese showing the way, and you got to think that at some point, with seeing a number of our drivers hitting pit lane here, that we're going to be seeing some others coming to pit road, and here we go. That is going to be the 94 of Gilberto Javier Gomera. He's coming to pit lane. The 19 is in as well of Stewksbury. Spencer Hardison, who we saw snag that final playoff, or that final stage point back at the end of the first stage of this race, he is in as well. I believe that we may end up having my fellow broadcast colleague Sam Dyer falling out of Discord. I think maybe an internet problem has happened in the Dyer household, because his brother Matt Dyer has actually disconnected from the server as well with what looks like internet issues. So hopefully we'll be able to get Sam back in here momentarily, and hopefully his brother Matt will be able to get back in as well, as here comes the race leader Braxton DeWeese to pit road. He's bringing Sartaj Mann, Trenton Jump, Tyler Tomasi, and Jacob Hoppy along with him. And again, these are all pit stops taking place about 4 to 5 laps short of the target lap that we had indicated of whether drivers could make it all the way to the end or not. Shane Tyrion's going to get a lap lead bonus point. We'll see when he's going to bring his machine to pit road, and it looks like it's going to be now. Tom Bourne's going to stay out an extra lap in the 54, along with Nick Massey in the 4 machine. You see the fresher tires of Logan Brakey and the 94 of Gamora going around both the 54 and the 4 machine. There you see drivers coming off of pit lane. I believe that Trenton Jump got the jump on 27. Braxton DeWeese, he's actually going to come out pit lane ahead of the 27 machine, so he could very well cycle around potentially to the race lead. I think race lead might right now be actually transferring around to the 94 as Shane Tyrion, Dylan Browning, Caleb Smith, they were the drivers in that last lap. Jacob Grant, I believe, is on pit road this time in the 5, so we are now waiting on just 3 drivers to complete the cycle of pit stops. Bourne in the 54, Massey in the 4, and Robert Kenny in the 34 machine, our winner from the first stage. Right now, should a caution come out, we've got 11 cars on the lead lap. Jacob Hoppy in the 22, now about to unlap himself, as is Tyler Tomasi. So now 14 cars will be on the lead lap, and here comes the 54 of Tom Bourne, finally to pit lane. So he could not make it to the target lap of 80. What about Nick Massey? What about Robert Kenny? About 3 more laps that they have to make it in order to be absolutely guaranteed that they could make this race on 1 pit stop as opposed to 2 pit stops for everybody else that's been on pit road.
Yeah, I mean, the goal for these drivers is, did they save enough during this whole entire run if they can do that? But it's going to be difficult to say. As you know, we're coming closer and closer to that target lap. It's looking difficult for any of them to make it to that target lap.
Here comes Massey. He's not going to be able to make it to the target lap of 80, and neither will Robert Kenny. So both of these drivers stretched it the furthest, but looks like based on the calculations, they are going to be about 2 laps short from making it to the finish. The question is, can they save those 2 laps of fuel on this final run? Again, we may still end up having a caution come out, so that all the strategy that we're talking about right now could be completely thrown out the window, as here's the battle that's going to be for the race lead. Bronson Stafford, one of the first to pit road, cycles out in front, and Gilberto Javier Gomera trying to run him down for that top position.
Yeah, going to be trying to do their best to run him down. And, you know, looking back, Matt Dyer, as you probably saw, he disconnected and I disconnected from the race. Our internet woes continue for the 88 and myself on Sundays.
A tough break there from Matt Dyer, who has currently scored 4 laps down in the 21st position. And boy, you mentioned it, all season long he's been running into hardships, and a couple of those things have been internet connection issues, and just seems like Sundays just do not like that 88 machine here in Adrenaline.
Well, I'm proud to say that we are getting better internet here in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully those woes will go away. But yeah, it was looking like it was going to be a solid day once again for the 88 machine, running about 10th, 11th place, and then hit with internet connections. Now 4 laps down, like you said.
This is the most spread out we have seen the field all day long. Let's take you through at least the top 10 here. Gilberto Javier Gomera right now your race leader. We saw him put up a good fight against Braxton DeWeese just before the pit stops began. Bronson Stafford is going to be in second. Logan Brakey now up to third. Eric Stampis in fourth. Both the 29 and the 53 came to pit road on the same lap, so they benefited from picking up track position. Braxton DeWeese, our pole sitter, is now in fifth. Best battle right now is for sixth. That's where you've got Trenton Jump and Jacob Hoppy battling for that spot. Eighth place is Tyler Tomasi. Ninth is Sartaj Mann. And right now in that 10th position is the 19 of Tyler Stooksbury. Then you got it quite a ways back before you get to 11th place Caleb Smith, 12th place Dylan Browning, Shane Tyrion's in this group as well as the 5 of Jacob Grant, who right now is the first car 1 lap down.
Yeah, this group of top 10, they will stay close to one another though. I'm just curious though, with the group that's behind them from 11th on back, I don't know if they have enough drivers that can really catch up to this front group, even though they're only about 2.5 seconds back.
Taking a look at the lap times right now, and the last time by, Gilberto Javier Gomera ran a 39.273. That group back there, led by Caleb Smith, ran 38.752. So they did make up about 7/10 that lap. It's all going to depend on if this group of 10 can get themselves formulated into a pack, because if they remain spread out, then that second group is going to be able to reel them in.
Yeah, at the moment, we're starting to see the back of this pack making some moves forward. Braxton DeWeese able to get by the 61 of Bronson Stafford, and it looks like Bronson Stafford might be drifting back, as he's also got Logan Reiki right at his corner panel.
Let's not forget Bronson Stafford was one of the first drivers to come to pit road. I think he hit pit lane back on lap 72. So his tires are going to be the ones that will wear the quickest the longer this run goes on.
Yeah, that's going to be something to watch out for until we get around lap 18 to 20, and then by then the tires might even out. But it's going to be a long trek for the 61 machine. And when they pitted, I don't think anyone made it to that marker that we were shooting for of lap 80. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone can make it to the end here on this fuel run that they just were on.
The two drivers that maybe we're going to have to look at that could maybe save enough here on this run. And could is very much so italicized, underlined, air quotes, because it's not likely, but it could happen. It would be the 4 of Nick Massey and the 34 of Robert Kenny. Those are the two drivers that are the closest to being able to make it, since they were the two that came to pit road last when the pit stop cycles were happening.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense why Robert Kenny kind of drifted back at the restart after that competition caution. I mean, that's end of the stage caution, I should say. And he's trying to save as much fuel as he could to make it to that marker, and he was pretty close, and it's going to be good to see. And Nick Massey's been on the same trek as everyone else, just lingering in the back, waiting for that fuel run strategy to be utilized.
There was a driver that I was really surprised kind of faded back when we started the second half of this race, the second stage, and that was the 49 of Sartaj Mann. Been up inside of the top 5 for most of the first stage, but then he was outside the top 10 for about the first 20 laps or so of the second stage. He is now back up here in the top 5, trying to take that 5th position away from Bronson Stafford. So he's finally back up here again, and he's another guy that spent most of his time in the top 3 around the likes of Braxton DeWeese. So we'll see if he's got anything for this 27 car as well.
Yeah, another car that was running up front earlier on in this race, but has drifted back after a penalty of sorts. Jacob Grant back in 18th. First car 1 lap down, hoping for a caution to get that lucky dog position and start running for more positions, but running 18th, and it's still running pretty quick compared to everyone else out there.
The thing I'm looking at here, I mean, these drivers up towards the front, DeWeese and Gomera, they have been out for 12 to 13 laps in their tires. And even right now, they are running about a second and a half slower than their fastest lap. I mentioned about the fact that Robert Kenny might be able to make it on fuel if he saves enough, and we just had almost an instant off turn 2. Trenton Jump, I don't know what happened to him, but his car was down below the white line in the back straightaway.
Yeah, it looked like maybe either Trenton Jump or the 22 came off the corner a little high and caused a little bit of contact. Yeah, there was contact made between the 22 and 46, I should say, where a little bit of bump drafting off the exit of the corner caused both machines to get a little bit loose and shoot off their different ways.
Weird moment there, but going back to Robert Kenny, he's currently scored a lap down in 19th. Even if he can make it on fuel, the question is, can he make up that ground and be able to hold the race lead if he does not come to pit road for the remainder of this race?
Right now, where he's running, he's all by himself. He doesn't have any help around him or in front or behind, so he's not going to be gaining any time really comparatively. If he's with other people, it's going to be difficult to see. But Nick Massey right now, he's still in the lead lap with this front group that have just caught up with our lead pack.
We'll see if Nick Massey can make it on fuel. If he can, he'd probably be the one guy that has a legitimate shot in terms of track position of holding off when these other drivers come to pit lane, which, as we said, most of these drivers came to pit road back around lap 72 to 75, nearing about 45 to 48 laps to go. So they've got a little bit of room to be able to play with. Do they maybe split this in half, and do we see them come back down pit road somewhere around lap 95 or so?
I mean, 95, some drivers probably going to push it until 100. until they want to make this final stop if they feel like they can't make it. But it's going to be difficult to say as when we'll see some of these drivers go, because the pace has dropped off dramatically from where it was at before, and that's why we're starting to see some drivers deciding that maybe if everyone's losing and backing it down, if I back down, maybe I can make it if everyone else is running this slow.
With everybody coming to pit road when they did, maybe somewhere around 7 to 8 laps short of fuel. The amount of time you would have to spend on pit road to get those 7 or 8 laps, does anybody maybe risk a 2-tire strategy?
I mean, we saw Braxton try it, but it wasn't really a fair chance for us to see or get the evidence to see that the 2 tires was going to work, just because he got turned around by Bronson Stafford, which kind of ruined that chance to see if the 2 tires was an option. But honestly, compared to the 4 tires, you kind of have to go with 4-tire run. Yes, you will be losing an extra 5 seconds compared to a 2-tire stop. Those seconds will be gained based off your lap times when you're back out there on track.
On board with Shane Tyrion right now, running into the back bumper of Tyler Stooksbury. Right now, Tyrion is in the 11th position. And for guys like Bronson Stafford, Gilberto Javier Gamera, those were some of the first drivers to hit pit lane for the first cycle of pit stops. So you kind of get the feeling they're going to set the tone when the final round of green flag pit stops, if we do have green flag pit stops, begin.
Yeah, our eyes will be on that. Other drivers that I'm watching out for, Tom Bourne in that 54 machine. He's had some interesting luck recently. He did finish well at Daytona at the start of this season, but then got that removed due to having too many instances. So this 54 machine trying to still rebound from that, as well as he's just been having some poor luck overall during this season.
The driver that's right behind him is the 12 machine of Dylan Browning. We mentioned that Browning, coming into this race, is 20th in the point standings, which is right where you need to be at least to have a victory count towards a spot in the playoffs. So trying to continue to make forward progress in the standings. And right now in that 14th position, Eric Stamp right behind him as well in the 53. Remember that he and Logan Brakey both were on pit road on the same lap, but Brakey's still up there in 7th. Stamp has fallen all the way back to 15th.
And the battle for the lead that once was just a 2-car battle, everyone else is kind of getting back up, and man, now making the charge for second place and possibly the lead here off of 2.
Now about a 6-car pack if you add in Gamera, Stafford, Tomasi, and Jump as well. Logan Brakey and Nick Massey trying to get a whiff of draft and make it an 8-car fight.
Yeah, looking back, they are close enough to get that draft. It's just everyone's so spread out that it's hard to tell if they do or not. But now everyone's getting single filed up and grouping back up as we're getting closer and closer to that window that you were talking about of drivers possibly thinking about pitting here soon. It's going to be difficult to say, but I think most of these drivers are going to be trying to push it all the way to the end. Some drivers might feel like with 10 to go, that's when they'll have to come to the pits, and since they'll be running out of gas. But for others, they're going to be trying their best to save fuel as we're almost 3 wide for the lead.
And of course, for those drivers that may try to short pit, it's kind of a risk reward. The reward is you'd be able to get out there, have fresher tires on your out lap than other drivers that stretch it out a little bit further. The risk is that a caution might come out and you could find yourself trapped a lap down.
Yeah, especially with everyone getting back grouped up. Now is really a nerve-wracking time, because before everyone was so spread out, maybe it was time to take that short pit and know that you could make it to the end. Now it's kind of a risky play with everyone, we're past the halfway marker. These drivers' intensity level is just going to climb higher and higher, kind of like how we saw the end of our stage here when people were just making such bold, aggressive moves, defensive blocks here and there that almost took each other out. That's what we're going to be starting to see here once we come to 20 laps to go.
Got about 11 cars up in this lead pack. 3 of the 11 have been to victory lane this season. 2-time winner Bronson Stafford, Shane Tyrion, and Nick Massey. 8 drivers are still looking for their first win of the season, as at the line it's going to be DeWeese just barely edging out Mann for the top spot.
That whole entire outside line, we're almost all bumper to bumper, shoving one another to gain as much space as possible, just not able to. But it's some drivers deciding it's time to come to the pits, as that's going to be Eric Stamp, Tyler Stooksbury coming in, as well as believe that's Caleb Smith that came in as well.
Also, the aid of Spencer Hardison, Matthew Rodriguez, the lap down machine is on pit road this time also.
Now is the time for drivers to come into the pits and make this decision that they felt like they couldn't make it. And this is around the window that you were talking about there, Seth, that they could make it if they started pitting right around here.
Here come a couple more. Dylan Browning, Shane Tyrion going to be pitting. Tyrion pitting from around the 11th position. Browning pitting from around 12th place. So some of these guys that were running just outside of the top 10 are the ones that are making these early ducks to pit lane, as we almost just had a caution right there. Little door banging possibly between the 46 and the 49 for the race lead.
Little bit of contact being utilized, but also up there, you're starting to see drivers on those much fresher tires, like the 4 of Nick Massey up here and now battling for 3rd place against Braxton DeWeese.
Jacob Hoppy now to pit road in the 22. And yeah, Nick Massey, I kind of thought he'd be a driver that could do it on one stop here, but he has made a charge up to the front. So that says to me he's not in save mode right now. So maybe there was absolutely no one that was going to be able to make it the rest of the way in this race, with only making that one pit stop at the midway point of this second stage.
And that is the 25 machine who's trying to lap himself of Caleb Smith. And you see the power of better tires compared to the older ones. As there goes Smith, not even worrying about the being 3 wide there for a bit. As Bronson Stafford now pulling his car into the pits.
He was able to go 188 miles per hour into the corner, as opposed to these guys up here at the front who entered into the corner at 179.
Yeah, they're just losing more and more speed, and they're actually going slower than that, almost down to 160 at points in the middle of the corner for these drivers. So up front, it is really a lot of drivers debating when they need to come into the pits, and you know, you got to set yourself up for that. You have to somehow figure out how to get your car to the inside line and be prepared to drop it into the pits, as that's going to be jumped, getting shoved in and going down into the pits.
A couple of drivers said really had to move their way through the field after some issues. Trenton Jump was one of them after getting a speeding penalty back at the end of the first stage. He's on pit road along with Tomasi, Logan Brakey as well. So we're waiting, at least for our front runners, for 5 drivers to hit pit lane. Sartaj Mann, Braxton DeWeese, Nick Massey, Tom Bourne, and Gilberto Javier Gomera.
Yeah, these guys are still running hard, and you're going to see there Bronson Stafford digging it down at the yellow line, drifting up just slightly when they're 4 wide. And all of a sudden, Nick Massey coming up into Braxton DeWeese, which would have caused a huge collision of our top drivers.
Yeah, DeWeese and Massey, they were battling side by side for position. Bronson Stafford in the 61, Jacob Hoppy in the 22, went to the inside and outside, making it a 4-wide situation with their fresher tires.
Yeah, and you just can see it's in the center of the corner where the fresher tires can just carry that momentum and just continue to go forward. And it sounds like Mann saying that he's going to be coming in as our leader at the moment.
The 49 will be on pit road this time. We'll see what DeWeese does. Does he stay out or does he follow the 49 in? Looks like he's going to pit this lap as well. So now we've got about 3 drivers that are still out there that still need to pit of our front runners, as Tom Bourne is now going to take the race lead.
Tom Bourne in that 54 machine, one of the 4 drivers at the start of this race with Nick Massey, Shane Tarian, and Tom Bourne himself, dropped all the way to the back to just be in cruise control for a bit on that first stage. And ever since then, the 54, I should say, been slowly making his way forward, now up to the lead due to it being a pit sequence, but so far doing a great job.
I'm trying to look and see right now, based off of track position, who would cycle around to the top spot, and it looks like it could very well be the 38 of Shane Tyrion, who right now is in 4th. Nick Massey is going to stay out. Tom Bourne and Gomera on pit road this time. So Shane Tyrion, did he maybe make the strategy call to get himself his 2nd win of the season? We'll have to wait and see.
Right now, Braxton DeWeese is going to be coming out all the way back in 15th position, and that is a rough time because he's over about, looking at the lap times, he's over about 6, possibly 7 seconds back from Shane Tarian, who will become our leader once the pit cycle goes through, unless Nick Massey can somehow stay out there.
Sartaj Man was ahead of him coming to pit road. I almost wonder if maybe the 49 might have been a little too conservative coming to pit lane, and the 27 of Braxton DeWeese got slowed up, and that might have been what lost him all those spots.
Well, it's that, and also the fact that all the drivers in front of them pitted about 4, some of them 8 laps before them, so they were all short pitted, gaining all this time, and just pulling away from that 49 and 27.
Nick Massey continues to stay out. The reason for this is he's hoping that maybe a caution would come out and he could trap all but 12 drivers off the lead lap, finally going to bring his car to pit lane.
Which is going to give the lead to Shane Terrian, and Terrian right now, all he has to worry about is that 12 behind him, and then behind the 12 is the 24, who is a lap down machine.
Shane Terrian winning earlier on this year at Charlotte, and looking to join Bronson Stafford as a 2-time winner here this season in the Adrenaline iRacing League. Question is, though, can he hold off the 12 of Dylan Browning, who is now the second place car? Both of these drivers were on pit road on the same lap. Then further back, you've got Caleb Smith. He's about 1.3 seconds back. Bronson Stafford's now in 4th. Jacob Hoppy currently is your completion of the top 5.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at Bronson Stafford as in Hoppy. If they can get together, as well as Stooksbury, if those 3 machines can get hooked up, they honestly, with being together, could catch up to our leaders and bring a whole pack there to Shane Terrian, and Terrian all by himself. I mean, yes, Browning just got to him in the next couple of laps or so if he can utilize the draft here of the 24, but it is looking like it's going to be close here coming to these closing laps.
There's Braxton DeWeese. Right now, he has cycled to 13th. Sartaj Man, who was the leader when these pit stops began, he's now in the 11th position as the caution is out. And it's DeWeese, I believe, on the front straightaway.
DeWeese and Tom Bourne making a little bit of contact there. And it looked like DeWeese and Bourne. Oh, that's a tic-tacky type of a spot where you've got cars trying to, if they got loose coming down, DeWeese coming up a little bit.
Well, Sam, back at the first stage, we had about a 10-lap shootout, and at that point, a green and white checkered flag and stage points were on the line. We're about to do it again, but now a race win is on the line.
Yeah, I'm looking back at this caution, and Braxton DeWeese kind of came up, and then he dropped back down, and then Bourne, in reaction to him being bumped up, pulled the car down, and they both made contact there, but it might have been Tom Bourne's fault mostly in that accident, but that's such a tic-tacky type of a caution and such a racing incident.
Going to take a couple of camera angles at it. I mean, from the first camera angle I saw, it looked like maybe the 27 tried to tuck up in front of the 54, but yeah, it could just be a case of one car going up, one car coming down, wanting the same piece of real estate, and our pole sitter Braxton DeWeese, no doubt that right front damage is going to affect him for the remainder of this race. He was at least in line to probably work his way back up into the top 10, not necessarily to the win. But now it looks like he may be struggling to even get that top 10 finish.
Well, it's looking like we might have 11 to 10 laps to go, and I was about to state this. Nick Massey, one of the cars that's going to be staying out, as well as the 94 staying out, because they've only been out there for 5 to 2 laps.
So different varying strategies. And we saw this before, even though it was unintentional. We saw varying strategies at the end of the first stage when Braxton DeWeese ended up having a pit road mistake, took 2 tires instead to be able to keep his track position. It obviously didn't work out into his favor, but we're going to get to see it again. And it kind of makes me nervous, too, because you kind of wonder what kind of speeds are the 94 and the 4 going to carry into turn 1 as opposed to the 4 tires behind them. Actually, a couple of drivers with the 2 tires.
I feel like Nick Massey should be all right, but Gilberto is going to be having a little bit of a struggle since he's been out there for a couple more laps longer than the 4. I thought for sure Nick Massey was going to stay out just because he'd been out there for 2 laps on those tires, possibly, I think, for maybe like 1 lap of green flag racing. So there's not too much damage on the tires for the 4 machine, but for the 94, It's going to be a lot more than comparatively to the others. But, you know, we talked about two-tire stops, and that's what we have for third and fourth place.
We definitely do. As Jacob Hoppy, Logan Brakey, they went with 2 tires. Also going with 2 tires was the 49 of Sartaj Mann. He's going to be restarting in the 7th position. So a lot of varying strategies up here inside of our top 10.
Update for Tom Bourne and Braxton DeWeese. Both of them are still in the pits. As I say that, they both are now getting out. So they're still going to be able to run, but they are not in a winning condition of their vehicles, more so of salvaging as many points as they can.
Folks, we want to thank you for joining us here tonight for our coverage of the Adrenaline Racing League, iRacing League here at Michigan. We are getting ready for what's going to be a 10-lap shootout to finish it here tonight, but we also want to remind you all that our action here this evening on the channel is not done. Later on this evening, it's going to be the Tech Hub TV Cup Series at Darlington, and that's going to be a wild one. Darlington is always a bit of a wild card track. Another track that's all about tire conservation.
Yeah, that Tech Hub series, they're coming to the end of their season, so it's all about running consistent and trying to win the championship as these guys are getting closer and closer to the end of their season.
So let's set the stage for you. Gilberto Javier Gamera stayed out. Nick Massey stayed out. Jacob Hoppy and Logan Brakey are on 2 tires. They're 3rd and 4th. Shane Tyrion and Dylan Browning, 4 tires. They are 5th and 6th. Sartaj Mann on 2 tires is 7th. Then the rest of the drivers in the top 10 are on 4 fresh Goodyears: Bronson Stafford, Trenton Jump, and Caleb Smith. We currently have 17 cars on the lead lap. I believe the 24 of Brockton Packard was the recipient of the free pass under that last caution. So he will be 17th. Drivers that are a lap down, hoping that maybe this wasn't the last caution we'll see tonight: Jacob Grant, Robert Kenny, Alex Walter, all 1 lap down apiece.
Base car rolls off, then the green flag is back in the air, and it's going to be Gilberto Javier Gamera going to be taking us to the green with those older tires, the same as the 4. As looking back, Bronson Stafford is making some bold moves there in the 61.
Got those 4 fresh tires, and he wants to march them to the front. We saw them 3 wide and 4 wide at the end of the first stage, and only playoff points were on the line then. A win is on the line now in these final 10 laps at Michigan.
This could possibly be punching your ticket into the playoffs, so a lot of hungry drivers here today. It's all about 10 laps, and most of these 10 laps are going to be full throttle going around this course, as now you're seeing the 38 and the 61 on the inside going for the lead.
Shane Tyrion, Javier Gamora, Nick Massey, 3 wide to the line. Edge will go to the 38 on that inside line. He's getting a push from Bronson Stafford into turn 1.
And right now, that 38 machine going for the lead, the same as Bronson Stafford. Both these cars already have got to win this season. Bronson's got 2, and then you've got the 38 that's got 1, and they're going to be keeping track of the cars behind, and they've got a wall of 2 cars that have older tires.
Now Stafford switches lanes. He'll go to the inside on Shane Tyrion. Pushes up just a little bit, trying to force the 38 out of the preferred line. And Tyrion got a bump from behind by Nick Massey. Almost lost it off of 4.
But able to continue going forward. Like I said, it's kind of like a wall that the 4 and the 94 are making. But here comes on the inside, it's the 2 tires of the 94 man.
And somehow he's able to make that inside line work. We're 4 wide for a brief moment. Logan Brakey, who's had the car maybe the most unstable.
Oh no, there goes Brakey!
And he's going to collect the 19. Caution will fly.
And you just had a feeling it was going to continue going. It's the 8 car also involved. And I believe I also saw the 34 of Robert Kenny.
Matthew Rodriguez coming to a stop. May have gotten a piece as well. Spencer Hardison.
I'm looking back to make sure that the 34 did not make contact. If he didn't, he keeps the lucky dog position. But if contact was made, then the 34 will not get the lucky dog. And somehow, the 34 machine did not make contact. I don't know how the water's open for that one, for the 34 machine.
Well, it started with Logan Brakey getting forced up into the wall off of turn 2. I wasn't certain who it was that made the contact with him, but he bounced down, and ironically, we talked about that Logan Brakey is battling with the 19 of Stewksbury for that final playoff spot. He's the one that Brakey clips in the right rear quarter panel, spinning him around, and then the track is somewhat blockaded there, at least up in the racing groove on the back straightaway.
Well, these drivers have been out there for now 5 laps, and here's the question. Do you come in and get pressure tires, or do you stay out? I mean, you saw with Nick Massey, he only had 2 tires, and he still was losing ground. It's going to be difficult because everyone's going to do the opposite of what our leader does, but how many cars will stay out here for track position?
Yeah, see, that's the question. If you come to pit lane, if you're maybe Stafford, Massey, Mann, those drivers, and everyone comes to pit road behind you, that's a winning situation. But if you then come to pit road and nobody else comes to pit lane with you, you're going to find yourself restarting this race with only a handful of laps to go outside of the top 10.
And it's looking like it's going to be 12th on back. And 12th right now is actually Tom Bourne in the 54 machine. We saw him getting collected up with Braxton DeWeese earlier on. Both those drivers decided to come into the pits. Actually, I take that back. DeWeese stays out. And right now is 13th. Sorry, excuse me. They were making passes under pit road.
What a hard hit in the outside wall there for the 19 of Stewksbury. Looked like he got clobbered by another car. It might have possibly been Greatorex in the 13, who's already been involved in a wreck today. We're going to look back and see if indeed it was. But somebody took a hard shot into the 19. Oh, no, it was not. Was
Was it
not
possibly the 8 machine?
Greatorex. Spencer Hardison. Yes, that is who it was. Hardison, and also the 5 of Jacob Grant got involved, and that's why Robert Kenny was able to get the free pass, because he and Grant at the time were battling for the free pass position.
And we're going to wait and see. Due to the fact that I don't know if no, Robert Kenny should be getting the lucky dog, I thought, but right now he is not scored of getting it. So maybe he did get a little bit of contact, so he did not get the free pass.
Well, from what we saw, it looked like he got through the wreck without any contact, and he was at the time running in the free pass position. He had just gotten around Jacob Grant for being the first car 1 lap down. So we'll have to wait and see what the end result of that is, as lights are out atop the pace car. That means it's going to be a 4-lap shootout to decide it here today, all depending on if we don't have another caution before the conclusion of this race.
Yeah, that's the main thing. If we don't get another caution, and the way that these drivers are going to be running here on these last couple of laps, I wouldn't be surprised if we go to a green-white checkered here.
It's going to be teammates on the front row, Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford. Both these drivers have been to victory lane this season for a total of 3 victories. So now they're just looking to rack up playoff points. Nick Massey there in third, also a former winner this season. Your first driver that is looking for his first win of the season is going to restart on the outside of row 2, and that is Sartaj Mann in the 49, who is on only 2 fresh tires. Then those 2 fresh tires have got 7 laps on them.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for the 49 machine to keep up with the cars that had fresher tires. But, I mean, you've got cars that are back in 11th place. Back in 12th place that will be having the freshest of tires. And with it being 4 laps to go here, that's plenty of time for these machines to get through the field and get back up front.
Keep an eye on that 46 of Trenton Jump. Going to be 5th on this restart. He finished runner-up in the first stage of this race, half a car length short of getting that stage win from Robert Kenny.
Base car pulls off, and it's going to be Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford leading the way up front. And you also got Nick Massey and Mann following suit.
Maybe a little okie dokie going on right there. Phrase coined by Joey Logano, with Terrian tucking up in front of his teammate in the 61. Massey going to move into third, 4th for Mann, and then a big gap before you get back to the 5th place battle with Trenton Jump and Dylan Browning.
And now you got our leaders of Bronson Stafford and Shane Terrian making a crossover move on the backstretch. And also, you've got all 3 drivers passing by the 38. Feeling like he might be too strong and needs the help of all 3 drivers to get by the 38 machine.
Bronson Stafford to the point now with a push down the back straightaway, courtesy of Nick Massey. They're going to tuck up in front of the 38, but here comes Trenton Jump. Here comes Tomasi, Browning, Smith. They're all back up in the hunt here with 3 laps to go at Michigan.
You've also got Mann on the inside. You're going to be trying to make as many passes as possible, but kind of is blocking the way for Jump. With all that momentum, it just stalled out with the 39. I mean, with 49 right there.
Now they're going to go 3 wide back there with that stalled out momentum. That's Caleb Smith making it 3 wide with Tomasi. Now it settles out to double wides. Looks like Dylan Browning's going to hold the 6th position for the moment. But up front, it's Bronson Stafford in the 61, the 4 of Nick Massey. I got to look real quickly, but I'm pretty sure that these are 2 guys that, nope, actually make it. Massey is the winner from last week. Bronson Stafford's win was all the way back at Bristol Motor Speedway, his last trip to victory lane.
3 wide for 5th place. It's 2 laps to go. And Bronson Stafford's hoping that we get to the white flag. That will be the last one. But does he want to be holding up in first place once we get to the white flag? As it is going to be a hard battle to hold off all these hungry machines behind him.
I mean, look at how wide the track is from the outside wall to the white line to the apron. How do you defend all those lanes as now Nick Massey's going to look to the bottom?
Nick Massey got a huge shove from Shane Terry in the 38 machine, and now we're coming around turn number 4 to the white flag. This is it. Next flag is going to give us the winner.
White flag's in the air, so next flag ends the race. We are going to get to the checkered flag. The question is, who will be the leader when we get there? We've got 8 contenders up here for this W.
And you got Bronson Stafford holding off in the 61 machine, but you know Shane Terrian wants to get another win, ducking it down low, coming below the 61 with a huge momentum.
And car have a moment off of turn 2. That was Caleb Smith. Here comes Tyrion. He's to the bottom. He'll try and push the 61 up the track here and try and get the run off of 4. Stafford gonna try and battle back on the top side. Let's see if we're gonna see a photo finish at Michigan.
Nick Massey on the inside, gonna try to cross the line. Who got it?
It was close.
Bronson
Stafford is what they're
Stafford.
saying.
Bronson Stafford by 6,000ths of a second gets it done, and 10,000 seconds over Nick Massey.
Oh my goodness. Stafford barely gets his 3rd win of the season, as 3 former winners were 3 abreast across the start-finish line in this one tonight at Michigan.
I mean, I was talking with Bronson before the race, and he told me he felt confident about this race. He's been doing all the fixed setups here at Michigan, feeling confident in every single time he's racing here, and thought this was the race he was going to win. Giving it 3 wins this year here at Michigan is going to be capitalizing it off for Bronson Stafford. And man, that's more bonus points that goes to the 61 machine that's setting him up better and better coming to the playoff time.
Absolutely, and if you think about it too, Bronson Stafford was one of the first guys to pit road when we had those cycles of pit stops. So even that may have positioned him to where he was in the closing stages of this race, and it seemed like he was more than willing to give up the bottom to Shane Tyrion there through 3 and 4, realizing he was going to get that momentum off the final corner and possibly be the one to edge it out at the start-finish line.
I know we have a lot of Braxton DeWeese fans, and Braxton did finish out in 14th position. He tried his best out there to get in as many spots as he could, and just too much damage for the 27 to get up here in the top 10.
We're going to go back and we're going to freeze frame that battle to the line. I thought at first it was going to be between Stafford and Tyrion. I did not expect to have a 3rd driver put his name into the hat there, with it being Nick Massey in the 4. But wait until you people see what this thing looked like, because this was, without a doubt, maybe one of the closest finishes with 3 cars involved that we have ever had here on the Flatout Racing Network.
It was one of the best finishes we could have asked for. Nick Massey, he got up there because he completely snuffed out the 46 of Trenton Jump again. He did it twice during that last 5 laps, and that last time it pushed him to having the momentum on the inside, ducking it low and getting under those machines. 3rd place was the best the 4 machine could get, but he was on those older tires compared to everyone else out there and did a great job out there in the 4 machine.
And these are 3 drivers that back at the very beginning of this race, all on purpose, dropped to the rear of the field. But at the end of the race, they were at the front of the field when it mattered the most. And that was the interval right there at the line. And as you'll see here from our finishing results, as you alluded to there, Sam, 11 1,000ths of a second separated not the top 2, but the top 3.
It's one of the wilder finishes we could have asked for, and I know there were a lot of drivers here today that just didn't have the luck that they wanted and the finishes that they wanted to have, but man, that was a great finish to watch from our end, that's for sure.
Definitely was. Trenton Jump will finish in 4th, so he was 2nd in the first stage and finishes 4th for the overall race. Sartaj Mann was another driver on 2 tires like Nick Massey. He was able to get a top 5 run in 5th. Eric Stamp, we kind of saw him fade out of the top 10, and we saw him try and do some short pitting to gain track position. He's going to get 6th here today, followed by Dylan Browning, Tyler Tomasi, Caleb Smith, and Brockton Packard. Twice he lost the lead pack. Cautions got him back up into the lead group, and he's going to bring it home with a top 10.
I mean, that is the craziest thing for Packard because he was the first car that was on the freshest of tires that pitted on that last restart. So a great run to finally put himself in a better position here as the season comes to an end.
Number of drivers we saw up at the front of the field in this race. Gilberto Javier Gomera is going to finish 12th. Braxton DeWeese, who started on the pole, finishes 14th. Robert Kenny, our winner of the first stage, 1 lap down. He'll finish in 17th. And Jacob Grant was never able to battle back from his restart violation penalty. He finishes the lap down in the 18th position. And then drivers that sustained quite a bit of crash damage in the closing stages. Tyler Stooksbury, 19th, 20th for Logan Brakey. Matt Dyer had internet connection issues, 21st, and then 2 drivers that were involved in an early caution back during the first stage, Austin Greatorex and Tanner Johnson, never were able to recover from the damage they sustained with hard hits into the inside wall in the front straightaway.
Yeah, just overall hard hits. And after going through those results, we have our top 3 jazzed up and ready to talk about that finale.
So let's kick things off here with our 3rd place finisher, Nick Massey. Nick, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, we were kind of calling it between the 61 and the 38 coming off of turn 4, and all of a sudden you ducked down to the inside line and put your name into that equation. Close there at the line, 11 1,000ths of a second. I mean, was that all you could do, or was there anywhere you could have gotten those final 11 1,000ths at the line?
I don't know. I was running third down on the backstretch there, and I let off a little early getting a 3, trying to get a run out of 4. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, whether push one of them or try to take it high or low. And Shane left a little lane down there, so I decided to take it low. But I think that's all I had. I was hoping they were going to door each other a little bit, slow each other down, but it didn't happen. It just got me at the line.
You know, we saw you go with a 2-tire strategy while most of the other drivers went with 4 back on that next to last caution. And you were able to hold your car up there pretty well against those 4 tires. What was it like trying to fight the race car, knowing that you only had 2 fresh tires as opposed to everybody else around you?
Yeah, I knew, like, it was just so hard. Like, I was running, probably like 10th to 15th all race. It was just so hard to work your way up through the pack. Even with better tires, it was just hard to pass with the draft and everything like that. So I knew I had to do something different. So I tried to play a little strategy into it there, and ended up working out there in the end. Was able to keep the track position and overall get a decent finish.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, I got a couple of questions for you. First and foremost, during that first stage racing, we saw you drop back with the 38 machine. What was the strategy call for that point in time during the race?
Oh, I was kind of just gonna, at the beginning, just kind of ride it out up there, see how everything was going, and then I think the 61 and somebody else almost wrecked in front of me, and then I kind of was like, all right, I'm backing out of here, riding in the back, and not going for stage points. I'll just go for the finish at the end, and was able to work my way back up through there, and all worked out.
And then my final question for you, Nick, was, coming to those last couple of laps, you were really being the car that was stuffing the 46 with all of his momentum and utilizing that to your advantage. How was it taking those hard of a hits from the 46?
It's definitely kind of nerve-wracking when you're trying to, stay in line and push and get pushed and stuff like that, and you're the sandwich sometimes, and just sometimes it's better than pulling out and making a pass sometimes, because if you do that, you risk not completing the pass, and then you lose like 3 spots because of it, so kind of just got to stay in line and hold the pretty wheel and try not to get turned or turn somebody.
Well, obviously, Nick, coming off your victory last week at Richmond, it gave you a lot of leverage to be able to try and play out some strategy. And, man, with 2 tires there as opposed to 4, to make that move off of 4, make it that close, it definitely made it maybe one of the most exciting races we've had here on Flatout Racing Network. Had the privilege of calling them. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Shane and Bronson there. It's a fun race with them. I've done a lot of leagues with them in the past, and it's always a blast. And I think that was the first photo finish we all had together, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to Tom and everybody on Sky and Ground Motorsports for bringing me on this year, and shout out to you guys too for taking on the broadcast this week. Hopefully it was a good one.
Well, that's Nick Massey. His goal is to get himself up into the top 20 in points for his Richmond win to count towards the playoffs. And a third place run here today at Michigan is a step in the right direction. Congrats on a great performance.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And let's get in our second place finisher, 6/1000ths of a second short of getting his second win of the season. That's Shane Tyrion. Shane, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
I got you.
Well, we saw you drive it in deep there into turn 3, trying to make sure you got the momentum off the corner. The 61 gets the run off of turn 4 alongside of you, and then you got the 40 to your left. What was that like coming to the start finish line?
I was screaming internally not to door any of them. We did that at another league where Bronson went 3 wide on my inside and Becky was on my outside. Kenny hit me, and then I doored Bronson with netcode. I was like, just don't do that again. Just get this close finish. And it worked out. I didn't win, but I mean, it was great nonetheless. I should have tried to block Nick, but he had such a head of steam that there was no point.
Yeah, talk about the fact that you got a win coming into this race. You won back at Charlotte. So did that kind of play into the aggressiveness that you had there in the closing stages of this race?
When I when I went to the back, I was like, they're gonna wreck, right? Like they're not gonna be able to stay clean all race, and they did. So I think towards the end of the first stage, I moved my way up at a caution, then I went back to the back, and then I drove back through the field. Then I took a 2-tire pit stop under green, and then the caution came out, so then I just had to be aggressive. So it worked. I mean, I was aggressive as I could be, as clean as I could be, but I probably could have not let off a little bit off of 4 because I thought I was going to hit Bronson, but it didn't look like I was going to. So that could have been the difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, Shane, it was a exciting finish overall, but right before we had that last caution, we saw Bronson and yourself really pushing it and staying on that yellow line with fresher tires. How easy was it trying to make those bold moves?
It was actually pretty easy. That thing stuck. I was surprised. Yeah, that was a lot easier than I expected it to be. I thought we were going to get sideways or drift up, but we didn't. So I don't know. We just I took a chance. I went for it, and it worked. And Bronson followed me through.
Well, Shane, 6/1000ths of a second, oh so close to getting your second win of the season, but a great performance here today, a very exciting finish as well. We're going to do some shout outs now.
Yeah, shout out you guys for broadcasting, taking over for Charles and those guys. I hope they feel better. I don't know what's going on, but then of course Sky Motorsports team, and then Ground Motorsports, Evil Controllers, Cineplex, and G Fuel, and all them. So thanks for them for hopping on board, and hope to see you guys again.
That's Shane Terry, and he brings it home P2 here tonight at Michigan International. It's his 4th top 5 of the season. Congrats on a great run.
Thank you.
And down in victory lane for the 3rd time this season, let's get a word with Bronson Stafford. Hey, Bronson, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about through 3 and 4 on that final lap, because that was an unbelievable way all of that culminated to result in an 11/1000ths of a second finish between the top 3, just barely able to edge out your teammate. But we saw you and the 38 almost alongside off turn 4. Was there any point where you thought maybe, just maybe, he might get me at the line?
Yeah, we ran our league race at Michigan literally 2 weeks ago, and the exact same situation happened, except I was on the inside, and he ended up actually dooring me and got myself and Kenny at the line. So I was just trying to stay far enough away where he'd have to slow down enough to come door me and throw the win away and give it to Nick instead of either one of us. But he just kind of stayed where he was, and I was just kind of hoping the side draft would prevail, and it did.
I want to go back to the early portions of this race, back around the first 10 laps or so, because I saw you up on the top side trying to make some ground up, and it looked like the car stepped out on you for a brief moment. What happened there?
Oh, yeah, okay. I had to remember for a second. I got pushed in the middle of the corner, and it just kind of got loose. The draft was so strong. It was so hard to not get on someone's bumper, and I just barely got tapped, and it got the car loose. And then I people kept saying I was having blinking issues and stuff. So at one point, I just bailed out of the pack and let the stage play out, and then did a reset and was able to good to go, and I'm glad I did, because would have been much harder to try and win with a blinking car.
Yeah, I mean, Bronson, we talked before this race, and you said you felt confident about winning this thing, and just based off of how the last couple of weeks have been for you at Michigan. But man, how does it feel getting your third win of the season here in Adrenaline?
Really good, honestly. We didn't get any wins last season at all. We're always like right there. It's just like Hearts and Bell and Shane were just that always that little bit better. And to come out this season and be like still the only multi-winner, let alone with 3 now, and start getting playoff points and help the points lead and everything feels really good. But honestly, I mean, the whole team's fast. I mean, we just finished 1, 2, 3 as a whole organization together, realistically, with Sky and Ground, and all night long. Tom and stuff was up here too. So like all the cars were fast, and it's nice to see at least one of us get the win. But even better when you get the top 3.
Well, Bronson, obviously, as Sam and I both said, probably the most exciting finish that we've had the privilege of calling here on Flatout Racing Network. And you come out on top with it here today in a 3-wide photo finish in Michigan. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Yeah, first off, the teams, Sky and Ground Motorsports, we did really good. The whole week we've ran NIS. We actually showed up at some of the practices to see what the car was going to do, since it was different to our last league race, and we all got really fast. And unfortunate night for Matt Dyer again with another leg out. Doesn't even get wrecked, but has another issue, and he was quick again tonight. And just everyone in the team really stepped up and all ran good. And obviously Citiplex, Evil Controllers, Sim Speed Shop, and G Fuel, always on the car. And then obviously huge shout out to you guys for coming on board so last minute in the day with the unfortunate illness for Charles and LSR TV. But I mean, I'm sure you guys did great, did an amazing job as usual, and I'm glad that we were able to get a broadcast on for a finish like that.
Well, that's Bronson Stafford. He gets to celebrate in victory lane for the 3rd time this season in the Adrenaline iRacing League. Go enjoy your victory, Bronson.
Yeah, thanks, Seth.
And no doubt, as alluded to, LSR TV usually has the call here, but Charles, who runs things over on that end, not feeling well, so we hope that he gets well soon. But no doubt about it. I mean, what a race to get to fill in here, Sam.
Oh yeah, I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better race at all. And I knew just based off of previous Michigan races that we've been watching, we knew this one was going to be exciting at the end, and it did not disappoint.
It definitely did not. A photo finish, 3 drivers, 11 1,000ths of a second at the line with the checkered flag waving over the hood of the 61 of Bronson Stafford. Next week, these drivers will be back at it at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Hopefully by that time, Charles will be feeling better and LSR TV will have the call for you there. If you've not had your fill of sim racing here tonight, Flatout Racing Network has another broadcast coming up where they're going to be calling the 11th race of the season for the Tech Hub Cup.TV Cup Series at Darlington Raceway. As you alluded to earlier, Sam, it is the penultimate race to set up for the championship race here this season, and the green flag is scheduled to fly at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So stay tuned for that, and join those guys there in the comments here this evening, as they're going to be bringing you a wild one from the Lady in Black.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. You got to wonder who is going to be winning out there, and honestly, who's going to survive. Darlington, one of the tougher tracks on most schedules.
Definitely is. We appreciate everybody that joined us here tonight, though, for this one at Michigan. And Sam, as always, I appreciate you joining me in the booth.
It's always a pleasure there, Seth.
And we hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole, and thanks for tuning in to another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.